Welcome to another episode of the Automation Ladies. We have Allie here with us today and myself, Nikki Gonzales. Welcome to new recordings of Season 6. We've had some wonderful episodes that we recorded last year come out beginning of this season. And we're excited to be back in the studio. And our guest today, Paul Godines, is joining us from Logix Trainers. He's somebody that we got in touch with several months ago, and I was very interested to learn more about what he's doing. And so one of the ways that we do that is we make time in our schedule to talk to people on the podcast. So Paul, welcome. Thank you for joining us on Automation Ladies. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, ladies, for having me. I appreciate it very much.
You're very welcome. A quick hi, Allie. Where are you and what are you up to?
I'm on a little vacation in Louisiana. And yeah.
You deserve that.
Thank you.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
How's the weather over there?
It's raining today, but it's been really nice. Like I've been getting a bunch of sun. So
yeah, you look a little tan. It looks good on you. All right, so we are here in late May on a Wednesday. Paul, I guess I'll ask our first standard question as a guest on Automation Ladies. Can you tell us a little bit about your history and how you got to be doing what you're doing today?
Well, I will start with, I've been in manufacturing for almost about 38 years. And about 15 years ago, so 08, no, 09, somewhere in that area, I was a production supervisor, tier 1 automotive supplier, and frontline supervisor, department manager. And I did that, my wife and I did that for like 20 years. And the bottom went out. You just pay a couple of team leads 50 cents on the hour, and you don't need a supervisor, in some departments. So it was a struggle. And I said, man, I really need to get a skill set. So out of the air, I pulled electrical, and I said, everybody uses electricity. So I was almost 40. I was between 35 and 40, somewhere in there, in age, and I could barely wire a lamp. I really didn't know how to do anything electrical, but I knew that I needed to do something. So I didn't have time to go to a lot of training. So I pretty much had tried to learn on my own. Well, the very first opportunity I got was to build de-energized control panels. So I got in there and I was learning how to wire and hold control panels. So after a couple of years, that company ended up closing, and that led to my very first exposure. Well, my first exposure with that first company was a guy walked in, he had a laptop hooked up to the machine that we were building, and it was energized at that time. It was on the other side of the factory, and I said, who's that guy? Oh, he's a controls engineer. Oh, yeah? So what's he doing? Oh, he's, programming, doing all this stuff. Man, those guys, they got it made. They make great money, and it's easy. I said, oh, that's great. So I'm almost 40. I walk up to the guy, start talking to him. He said, don't worry. You don't need it. A lot of times you don't need a degree. You can learn as much as you can. He said, the biggest thing about this is that there's lots of opportunity and you'll never be unemployed. And I thought, that's for me. And I started the very first introduction to the idea of what a controls engineer was. I said that was for me before I knew anything about it, which is kind of a pattern for me. I kind of decided I want to go way over there, not realizing the big gap between where I'm at and there. So following that, a couple of years of building panels, I got my first real full-time exposure to controls. And that was because the company was owned by three brothers, and the guy who did the programming, he didn't want to do it anymore. He's burnt out. And so I started, and here's how it went. Now he kind of denies how this origination story went, but I was on a job. We were using our Logix 500 as our platform, and so I got stuck, and I called him, and he said, well, you got the print? Yeah. You got the machine? Yeah. You got the program? Yeah. Can't help you. You have to figure it out. And he's a super great guy. Don't get me wrong. but it was a real trial by fire. I would get at some job sites and I would struggle. It's in the waste recycling industry. So conveyors, compactors, balers. And remember I was in Montana and I got stuck and I'm like 2 days past this machine's commissioning time. And I called back daily to give an update. And in the background, I could hear the owner of the company saying, "You tell Paul if he comes back without that machine running, he's fired." And
No pressure.
no pressure, right? This is a rough, tough group of guys, right? And I also served in the Marines, so I kind of consider myself a kind of a tough guy. And I said, you know what? That mentality of tenacity was really seated with that company, right? And I said, I'll tell you what, I'm not coming back, even if you do fire me until this thing's running. So it is, no matter what I desire to do in the future, that sense of tenacity is necessary in this job. You got to have it. So that was a really fundamental, foundational piece of my learning. And it was one of those environments in which there was no formal training, no structure, kind of just get the thing running. I don't care what it takes. If it takes you being up 2 days straight, which has happened, I don't care what it takes. Get it running. There was no standards, no protocols, no nothing. Just get it running. And then we could sell it. We get our last paycheck. We're out of here. 30 days, we're done. He's on his own. So that was the foundation that I started with. And it wasn't until many years later that I really struggled learning controls. And by no means do I say that I never claim being a senior controls engineer, because I'm not. I think I'm a very strong, solid, mid-level guy who can give almost anything to, but I'm not a senior guy. But there's a reason for that. And the reason, in my opinion, is that we have this awesome opportunity where all the automation systems, the advancement of technology and manufacturing is growing like never before. And all three of us know, we expect that will double and it will just fold over itself in the future. When I look at the landscape, I say where I started to what the opportunity is. I'm an engineer, right? I need systems, I need processes, I need structure. I need to know, how do I get from one step to the next to the next? I'm not in the mindset anymore, because I have been taught how to structure a program, how to use engineering systems to design, right? And so for me, I want to fill all those gaps. And that mentality, it's in the back of the mind, but I didn't have the answers, but it was always back there. There's got to be a better way. We struggle too much. The new guys as they're coming up is struggling. I'll tell you this much. Here's what I tell people. I run many maintenance departments, and I've always said the one thing I can't give you is the desire. You got to want it. I can give you everything else. I can't give you the want. And here we have this wonderful opportunity in today's world. We have these wonderful new entry-level technicians, and we have such a poor structure to match the two. We do not have those bridges that we need, in my opinion, to make that happen. These young entry-level technicians are going to struggle, hopefully not as much as I did, but they're going to struggle. Thus was the seed for Logix Trainers. So if our guests, anybody who's listening to this says, let me look into Paul Godines, they're going to find that I had a company called Logix Workshops a little over a year ago. And that was when my very first effort to try and make that bridge. And I struggled for a couple of years to kind of come up with a solution. And I did. And I'll get into what that was here in a minute, but I did. I kind of figured it out. I cobbled something together. We sold it. It worked. I believed it. I sold that company because the very first business person that I partnered with to market it offered to buy it immediately. He said, "I'm going to buy the company." As soon as I offered it to him, and I was not in that mindset. And things happened. Many months later, I sold him that company. I then went and did some sales engineering because it provided me an opportunity to grow in ways that I hadn't done before, accomplish some things I wanted to do, some additional world travel, work with at the highest level with large billion-dollar companies, sit at the table and be a part of that conversation. It's an experience I really wanted to have in my life. But in the back of my mind, it kept gnawing at me that I didn't really polish what we did with Logix workshops.
So is that training classes then, or
Well,
can you tell us a little bit more?
What happened? It's a good question. It's a good time. So what happened was, okay, ISA 95 identifies our 4 layers. The very first layer is 0, which I hate that it's 0, but it's 0. All right. And what is it? What does ISA 95 level 0 really mean to a entry level technician? Because these are designed to be ascending in technology, communication, and business decisions. ISA 95. So level 0 is interaction with electromechanical devices. Okay, we got sensors, we got VFDs, we got HMIs, we got all these devices. It took a while for me to really ponder what this meant. Level 0 means I have to be able to walk in and hook up to a VFD, set up all the configuration, the IP addresses, and if there's more than one, now I've got a whole network to deal with. That's level 0. Without having the ability to have a VFD in front of you, our ability to learn how to do that as an entry-level technician is we watch videos. The next thing that's going to happen is somebody's going to throw them into the real world, and they're supposed to somehow struggle their way through trying to figure this out. And I'll tell you what a senior engineer is going to tell you. Look, I'll get to you when I get a minute. I'll come over and try and walk you through it. There's the gap. That's Logix Trainers. So what I did is I said there's got to be a better way. And what I did is I had discovered the ability to do simulation training. Now, Rockwell Automation does something very similar to what I'm doing. Theirs is platform specific, okay? So they are using it to promote their products. What Logix Trainers is, we're agnostic. We're any platform, any hardware. So level 0, our goal is to, at this early beginning stage of the business that we're at now, is we want to say, you need to have hands-on experience with a VFD. So what we do is we simulate we simulate Studio 5000. We simulate the connected components, and we simulate the hardware. So basically, through one of our trainings, somebody can take a training. There's no hardware, no software, no licenses, nothing. You just use a browser, brings it up, and you literally will have to click exactly where you would in the real software in our training. You would click on the buttons. Now you can click anywhere on the screen you want, but if you do not click exactly where you're supposed to accomplish a task, for example, set a trend, for example, it won't work. It's a nearly 99.9% accurate with not using any software and not having any hardware. Now, because it's simulation, we have the opportunity to do some stuff you can't do. So in some of our trainings, we really want to simulate as much of the hardware as possible. So you have the hardware and you have the software. And we simulate walking through each step, setting the parameters, making choices, toggling on and off, forcing bits, whatever it is that we need to do. And then we try to show what's that look like on a VFD, for example. What would that look? What would the front of that VFD do? In our upcoming training, you will be able to, if you have a touch screen monitor, you'll be able to set an IP address like as if you had the VFD right in front of you.
Oh, yeah, like touching the
That's
buttons or
exactly
whatever
that's
is actually on the
amazing.
thing.
And it will,
Wow.
yeah. Now here's the goal. Here's the goal. And while that's great and everything, but the goal is this: Logix Trainers wants to identify, one, that there's a gap. Two, we need a bridge for these entry level technicians or engineers to be able to deliver on ISA 95 level 0. First thing we got to do is got to get them introduced to the hardware. Now, an HMI, for example, Rockwell, right? So you can't learn how to calibrate an HMI unless you have a real HMI. Our training, we can do that. We can let them practice calibrating, let them practice setting all the settings, right? Color and all the calibration, all the things of that nature. And if we wanted to, and we do, we're not there yet, but they can practice designing a screen, right? So we want to do as much as possible to introduce them to the hardware and the software. The real key here is this: any hardware that typically has its own proprietary software and requires, say, Studio or Factory Talk or Siemens or any of the rest of them to integrate, there is no way to do that unless you have the hardware. Our goal is to fix that so that a new entry-level student can watch a video. It's very important. The model that I want to introduce to the industry is Visa. Video. You watch it, I kind of understand what we're doing. Interactive simulation. Now I get a little hands-on. Click, 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 click. Little muscle memory, right? Then we have skills, a skills application. That is when you do get an access to the real software. You can then use Emulate and you can do a little bit of practice. You got to have that, right? And then there's the apprenticeship, the A. So the A is our apprenticeship. They get into it with a company, and we really desperately need to develop and supply resources. Companies have to do this. They have to make this investment. It's not just, oh, I need a new robot. Well,
Right.
Great. I'm going to send the guy to training. I get a new robot. I'm going to send him training. He's come back. He's going to be an expert. No, doesn't work that way. We all know that. All right. I've been to Motorman. I've been to Fanuc School, and I'm a rotten robot programmer.
Allie's been to one of those, right? You've been to the Fanuc
Fanuc one, yeah. The bottom level Fanuc.
It's one of those things where you have to have time on the robot. Okay.
Yeah.
I have a very good friend of mine, and Stephen Gates in my PLC training, and he is actually the one who purchased Logix workshops, and he is building a FANUC in interactive simulation. So the software is $10,000. The RoboGuide is $300, $400 a month to lease the license. But he's putting together a training program from a very experienced robotic technician, engineer, that is going to be an awesome training course. But what it's going to do is it give you that that ability to work with the software, set up programs without ever needing the robot, without ever being on the production floor. And it's that gap between having a real robot or at least the RoboGuide, which is somewhat helpful, and videos. There's a gap there. Interactive simulation, in my opinion, is it. So videos, interactive simulation, skills application, where you can get your hands on the real software somewhere, right? And then, of course, some sort of apprenticeship, some sort of mentorship.
Yeah.
We kind of got to put this framework. This framework, really, in summary, this goal is, if we marry it with something like GCC, so the Global Common Controls Standard, those two models, my model, the standard, is what we need to do to be able to literally deliver level 0. We're not talking level 2 and 3 and 4. We're just saying, just for a guy to go out there and for him to be useful to me, I can go say, look, go set some IPs. Here's a list of the parameters we want these VFDs set on. or go set this HMI up over here. I'm not telling him the right code. Everybody's training is, oh, I'm going to spend 6 months going through writing all code. I would never give a guy a laptop and have him go out on these first couple of months and work on a $300,000 machine that runs $1 million process, right? Never do that. But yet we spend so much time trying to teach them how to program, and that's the last thing they're going to end up doing when they first get the job. These are the thoughts that run through my head, the things that have inspired me, my idea of how to solve some of the struggles that I had. And I think it also identifies the gaps that this industry has. And it's my way of, this may not be a perfect solution, but damn it, somebody's got to fill this gap. We owe it to our...
Nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing this, what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think we kind of tend to attract, like you said, there's a certain tenacity needed to be in this role, and people do kind of, it attracts people that go overboard and then burn out also.
Yes.
Right? But I think maybe we're so focused on fixing the problems of the machine, they're like, nope, none of us are really stepping back, aside from you, and there are other people, right? So not none, but not very many have the opportunity to step back and apply the same tenacity and focus and problem solving to the bigger picture problem that we have in the industry, instead of macro focusing on the controls job that you're actually doing, right? Because you're applying the same type of principle you would to looking at walking into a machine with no drawings or whatever, right? And you go, why would somebody do it this way? And let me find a better way. But you're doing that to know that. I think that's really incredible. Can you, before Allie, I'm sure Allie has questions. I don't want to take up too much airtime, but for those people that don't know, can you tell us what the other 4 layers of the ISA 95 model are?
The second level is controls, programming, PLC programming. Generally, that's that scope, right? So you start with learning how to work with devices, calibrate lasers, set IPs on VFDs, set your HMIs. So devices, you focus on connecting and the devices. Now that may include integrating it, integrating it to a Studio 5000, but really that's it. You're not going to give somebody the laptop and say, hey, I want you to write me a whole program, right? Okay, so the next level is the programming. So you then get in and you start learning, right? And we all know that's there's so much to learn. It's a lot to learn, right? Okay, so that's level 2. And then you get into supervisory, right? So now you get into a more SCADA, you get into more HMI, right? So now we're pulling back from the device to our PLC. Now we're getting to supervisory level, and then from there you get into the business, like the MES type of level.
ERP, MES, kind of the digitalization.
Digitalization, right? And eventually, as we integrate more 4.0 into the factory, so those are the levels. And really, it's brilliant. Whoever sat down and said, we got to put a little structure to this. It's brilliant, because it is the best way. If you think of it from a training platform, let's start small. We'll start our device, then we'll go into the PLC, and then from there we get into our supervisory, and then we get into the more pulled back, and we're looking at the entire, maybe a whole factory or a whole multi machine process. So it's very well thought out. And when you think about the growth of a new technician or engineer, that makes sense to me as well. I think I don't see anything wrong with these many of the structures. There's just some gaps.
Did you say you were a Marine?
Yes.
I
joined up at 17 as a non-high school graduate.
Do you think the military helps get that tenacity, or where do you think that tenacity comes from? Because I agree, you can't teach it.
That's a good question. I'll put it to you this way. I think that the same discussion, maybe if you've ever been on YouTube and you look at it, and there's a big debate: should women be in combat? Right? Now, when you look at that, it doesn't seem there's no correlation between that and industrial automation, but it is, right? So I have my own opinions about that particular subject. I'm not going to get into it. Let's just suffice to say what it takes to be able to survive in both environments. You can't give it to them. You have to find it. People, and I'll give you an example, but I mean, people want to get into this industry and they want to get off the production floor, sit in the office, put on the headphones and write code or draw with CAD, right? Unfortunately, most companies don't have the luxury of having one person just do this one part of this job. So you have to be a really multi-skilled, multi-capable person. And because of the demand, we have to find and sift through many, many people who want this type of job. I want a 6-figure job, right? But we have to sift through them and find those who have the tenacity to endure the demands, right? So that pretty much answers the very first question as well, right? So I don't think that we can give it. I don't think we can teach it. I think we have to find it. But in order to find it, we got to know what we're looking for. We have to have a structure, right? If we don't have the front end, I think that the tenacity piece is the back end, because you will not discover it very quickly. It takes a little bit of time. So we have to walk them through a process, a structure. And then in time, we will discover that they have the tenacity. Where can they fit into this? Even better yet, where can they fit in? Because not everybody is going to be or has a desire or capability of being a senior engineer, managing multiple sites, very complex systems. Not everybody can do that, right? Some guys need to work closer or do better working closer with the maintenance because that's where they came from. So I think answer that question, we have to find that in people. I don't think it can be taught.
So what got you, I guess, in the beginning, you started out in production, manufacturing, right? And
Yes.
then you got approached, or you kind of like landed in this situation where you saw the right person and they happened to give you a really good answer as to what they
Yes.
were doing that attracted you. How do you think we find more of these people? Where do we go looking for them to bring them into this training or to get them interested if they don't know that controls is a thing?
Well, that's a brilliant question, in which once I get a little further down the road, I really want to spend a little more time in. I think we need to fight for recruits to this industry like the military does. We need to have recruiters.
Yeah.
And we need to have our banners out. We need to be the cheerleaders or whatever it takes, right? So I think that there's a couple of things we can do. One, as always, when I write a program, I always use a template of something that's similar. And if I don't have that, then I try to model it after something that has successfully worked over here. And then I say, okay, I'll restructure a little bit, but this should work. I think that we need the model. So Marines in particular, I can't tell you how many people say, Marines look sharp. So we need to look sharp. We need to look like we know what the hell we're talking about. Okay. We need to have structure. We need to have, and that's the other thing. A lot of people want to go to the military and they want structure. They have not had it in their home. So they want structure, right? They want to believe that there's a pathway, that there's a from A to Z, it makes sense, right? And that we can help them achieve that. I think that what happens, I would say one of the best things we can do with that is to promote it, to build organizations that have their own internal structures that help guide people through this process. And then we need to do exactly like you guys are doing, OT SCADA, right? We need to bring professionals together, and we need to work together, and we need to use that to strengthen and unify our industry from the grassroots level. The people who are on the floor. Allie, I've seen so many pictures of you out on the floor working and doing things out there. That's the kind of promotion that we need to see. I think that the ladies, automation ladies, is another way of doing that. You're promoting that this is not, even though it has been in the past, this is not exclusive to men. This is a great opportunity for ladies. I think that all of those things combined will help us attract the right people. But we need to answer the complicated questions. How do we get there?
Yeah.
What's it look like? Why would I want to do it? Etc. And myself, I don't think that stating up front that this certain times, certain places, this job is very demanding. I don't think we should hide that. I think we should
don't
put
think
it
so
out
either.
there. I think it will attract a certain type of person who wants to challenge themselves. And if you take on the challenge and you're successful, there's a great financial reward for it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that also drew me to Allie's content initially, and just her general like writing about it. It's pretty open about both the really good parts of it and some of the struggles. And I think that nowadays especially, like, we get sold to everything all the time.
Sure.
And everybody that's trying to sell us on something, they're trying to sell us on the good parts only, pretty much. Like marketing, right? And it's always like, but now we have so many things marketed at us, and we know they're not all 100% great.
Sure.
So you start to develop this like just built-in kind of skepticism. And now I want to hear, like, when I go look at reviews, like, I want to go read the bad reviews. Not because I'm going to let them... Generally, I try to look for, like, is there a really big trend in what the negative reviews are saying? Or are there more, like, disgruntled edge cases, people that got so mad that they really wanted to come vent about it? Because reviews are often, you know, the product of people that are the most passionate in the best and the worst way.
Sure.
But I think, yeah, people just, like, you want more of the real...
Sure.
And then you feel like you have more information to go on that to try to make a decision. But then the other thing, like you said, just like you can't really interview for tenacity in a 1-hour conversation. It takes a little while for that to kind of come out.
Sure.
I think this industry being a fit for you can also take a little bit of time to come out.
Sure.
Although hopefully if there's at least a spark of interest, you should be able to find the part that sparks with you within the industry. It just may not be what you thought up front, right? Whether
Sure.
you're doing commissioning, whether you're writing code, whether you're doing, you know, maintenance, troubleshooting.
Sure.
There's so many different things that when you find one that sparks with you, you can stick around with that and get better at it.
Sure.
Right? But you
Yeah.
need people to come in the first place for both of those vettings to be able to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm a little concerned. So I was listening to another podcast on the way back here for my daughter's first grade graduation. So lots of things to unpack there. But education, as I see it going forward, like, things are changing so fast. It's really hard to know if
Sure.
the education we're providing is, like, really what kids need. But then, yeah, I was listening to Simon Sinek. And
Yep. I love him.
he was talking to a professor or researcher that's been doing some sort of happiness study for multiple decades about what makes people happy. And they were talking about, you know, doing something with purpose and having a community. But the word community has kind of changed a lot, because it used to be a physical place you would go to and meet people.
Yep.
And now, you know, marketers have kind of hijacked it for online communities. You subscribe to my newsletter, you're part of the community, you know? But really what they were saying was part of what we're missing in life, and especially due to the internet. It's so easy to kind of opt out of making the hard choice of driving somewhere, meeting somebody in person. You know, it's so much easier to be like, well, let me just scroll through that community feed and not actually engage with anybody. But they were saying, yeah, that really, that kind of connection that keeps people interested in learning and making new things, it happens in person, and people lack that. But then it got me thinking, what is OT SCADACon, right? We say community, sort of. It's a community conference. I think grassroots is another good word for it, because it's not an organization that put it on to advance their agenda, but just people that wanted a thing that didn't exist. But yeah, is it an online community, or is it an in-person community? I don't know. I'm curious, as a new member of this community, sort of. Will be your first year attending, you know, our second annual conference. What sort of drew you to it, or what does it look like to you? And what made you think that it would be something that would be interesting to be a part of?
So that's a very good question. And one of the things I love giving is there's probably been an extraordinary amount of effort to build this event. And feedback is a gift. And so for me personally, I think what I will say, what attracted me first was Allie G. So
Allie attracts a lot of people. And she repels some, but we've very much come to learn that's a good thing. You don't need to be everything to everyone.
No. So,
Yes, I do.
so I was attracted to her, and I'm watching, I'm looking, and I said, you know, to be honest, she was so open and honest. Look, one of the things, if you look at between comic books, right? So comic books, you have Marvel, you have DC, okay? And I'm not a comic book expert guy, so I may have this messed up, but I think the Superman, which was Marvel, right? So Superman, everybody was like so perfect. He's a hunk of a guy. He's strong. He had no real weaknesses. He kind of had kryptonite, but we can't really identify with that. But then the DC actually had character flaws. They had personal issues, struggling things, failures. And what attracted me is that when I looked at Allie Jean, I said, this woman is like a hero because she has so much that she has accomplished and aspires to accomplish, and yet she's not afraid to share some of her weaknesses. And that, to me, shows not just great strength, but great character. So when I seen that, I started following her. And then a little bit more, and then she had this event, and my business said, you know what? And I was going to go to Detroit, and I'm only 4 hours away from it. I just didn't plan it, so I didn't get up there. But I said, I need to go to a place and stand in a room, tell people what I'm doing and what I'm going to do, and I need to be man enough to take whatever feedback, good or bad, I'm going to get. I said, I can take it. I'll take it. If I'm doing something wrong or it can be done better, you tell me, and I swear to God, I will do it. I will fix it. I believe deeply that this is a valuable contribution to the industry, and I will fix it. I will change it. I will improve it. I will do whatever it takes to make it work, because I'm more interested in the outcome than the reward. I just want to put something there and say, this works and it makes a difference. And if I can do that, I'm happy. Everything else will come later. Whatever that looks like, right?
I'm glad to hear. Yeah, I think you are. And I think you will find the kind of community that wants to give you that feedback, and probably with some admiration and kindness for the fact that you're putting that much effort into it and that you care that much. And I know that's not always the case. We've, been to some places where I guess doing things wrong or having not, isn't necessarily met with kindness and constructive criticism, but rather just criticism, which I don't find to be helpful in the world, really, for any reason, ever.
It doesn't really even help the person making the criticism. What are you getting out of it?
Right.
You're still, I give you a criticism and I leave, keyboard warrior, right? And I leave and I still have that same anxiety in me. I didn't really release anything. But that's other people. I need to focus on what I can control. And that's what I'm going to focus on. So Allie G attracted to me. OT SCADA was a place where I felt, I seen Tim Wellborn was there last year. Romanoff, I believe, was there.
Vlad's going to be there this year. Yep.
I have watched these guys for years, right? And some of these guys kind of know my name from Logix workshops. But I haven't done anything big like these guys, right? So I've seen some of these guys, and they're going to this event. It's a good time for me. I hope to have some success when I go down there, so I have a little more confidence that I can stand in a room and figuratively only expose myself. This is what I'm thinking. This is my thoughts. Please help me improve it, because I've run the counter argument in my head many, many times, right? And the counter argument always comes back to, okay, if I'm wrong, tell me how to fix this gap.
Yeah.
Because I've experienced it. I know it's still there. My son is a controls engineer. He went to college, and unfortunately, he went to college, got his degree, and he's got a really great job, beautiful family. But unfortunately, it irritates me really. The instructor on his programming class said, well, I don't know anything about programming, so I guess we'll both learn together, right? We'll all learn together. And that was very disappointing to me. So when he left college, he left incapable of walking up to a controller, pinging it in the IP, whatever format he's using to be able to go online with it. He wouldn't be able to set configuration for .io. I mean, some of the most basic stuff. So when you leave after college, we have a smart, talented, committed person. That's it. We don't have a skilled, not even for level 0, just level 0. So, and I know that there's some schools that are changing that. They're working on it. But if somebody can have a better path, I'm all for it. I don't see it. So instead of not seeing it, I'm going to build my version of it. And I'm inspired about what the possibilities are. I thank you for that. Your feedback is very important. And I knew that speaking to you ladies, I was going to put in my idea of the visa model. I'm putting out ideas that, people who are way more smarter than me in controls and engineering might think I'm, I don't know. I don't know what they would think, but I just don't, there's no other answer I can find. If it exists, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I would like to see if any of those people have thoughts on what you're doing, is that they share those thoughts for your benefit and help. Or
Yes.
I think probably the majority of those people are not focused on solving this problem. So they may or may not have some thoughts, but unless you've got then a better suggestion as to how to fix this problem and are somebody that's willing to live it, then hopefully anybody can do is try to contribute, to help
Yes.
help you solve this problem, because it affects everybody. And especially, I would say the folks up at teaching the Industry 4.0 stuff and, all that stuff that's supposed to benefit from this, it doesn't work if the point devices, if the level 0 doesn't work. Right? And if the people working on the level 0 can't keep the line up and running, then all of that is kind of, it's all important, but at the same time, I think we've kind of moved our attention up the value chain.
Mm-hmm.
And left the bottom level going, well, they're fine over there. They've been making it work. And the true answer is, yes, we've been fine. We've been making it work. But the more it doesn't scale well. It does not scale well.
That Nikki, I think that is the most, that is the, I don't know what term I want to use, and I'll have to work on this after this, but that is the pinnacle point, is that if it doesn't scale, for lack of a better phrase, we're screwed.
Yeah.
We're going to hurt, because
We're already
the
screwed.
demand is such. Yes, I agree. In many ways, we are. We talk about.
We can only go up from
recruitment
here.
into the industry, training, that we have to. And if you think about it, so in my training, I will speak to that just for a moment or two. So we built a lot of demos, and they're like at a very basic linear level, right? Our goal is, so basically linear level would be, I'm going to set a trend in a VFD, right? So I know that I have like 12 steps to make this happen. So we show them click here, click here, click here. But now we don't just say click here, click here. But what we do is we give them audio and visual guidance. They walk through the process. We try to answer any questions about what it is they're doing, how they're doing it, so that they have a skill. So since when they leave, somebody can go right to the VFD, hook up to it, or remotely set a trend using connected components, for example, right? Okay. So we try to add in voice and visual guidance, a click by click process, a very for this particular lesson, you're going to do this specific task. So we've tried to isolate it and say, when you're done, you can do this multiple times. You can do it one time with listening to it, turn the volume off, and then do it and test yourself, right? So there's very clear process. And then there's upcoming, we were working on lessons where now you have multiple options to solve this task or this opportunity, this troubleshooting, whatever. And we want them to start thinking like a problem solver. Okay, I could do this. And then they have to make decisions. So that's that next level. But where I'm going with this is this level of thinking and this level of interaction and our inclusion of using AI in our training right inside the training. They'll be able to pop up and use AI and answer all questions specific to that training, or what might be the next step for me. So we're going to integrate that. But what's most important is this interaction, this AI, it's already here. Everybody's going to be building training like this. Videos, in my opinion, will be like a kid in Taekwondo compared to the UFC. There's a time and place for it. But in the future, people are getting the demand. No, I don't want to sit and just watch a video or this long list of videos. I use this to my guy. I said, I'm going to take you all the way down to the gold mine. And we're going to go through the cave all the way down. I'm going to put the pick in your hand. I'm going to point right to where the gold is. And I'm going to show you exactly how to hit it and put that gold in your hand. Our training needs to do that. We need to put that right in their hands. The only way to do it that I know is either give them the real stuff, which is unlikely for a new person, or we give them the opportunity to use an interactive simulation. But that is the next evolution. I'm just at the very, 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 very peak of that. But it's coming. I've had people say, aren't you afraid of people stealing what you're doing? It's going to happen whether I want it or not. And that's not a bad thing. It's coming, and that's how people will learn here very, very shortly. But what that's going to do is Allie's going to get some new person, and they're like, yeah, I haven't only had one little job. I did some basic stuff, but I've done a lot of simulation, so I can walk over here and do this and this and this, because she's going to know he's already done it through simulation. I mean, it's the same way we train pilots and almost everything else. It's some form of simulation. I always tell people, if you can't learn how to fly a plane by just watching videos, you have to.
But you also just can't go crash a bunch of planes. So
nobody's going to give you a plane. That's the counter argument, is that nobody's going to give you a plane to go practice. So where's the middle ground? Well, let's do some simulation, right? So to me, in my mind, we're behind the ball on this. We should have already been doing this. Some big name companies should have already been investing in this. Hopefully they will. My goal currently, my business goal, is we're going to slowly build some business to consumer courses. I'm not really focused on just doing that, but I really want to work with companies and help them either build an add-on service where, say, right now we're working with outreach to hydraulics companies, and a lot of the hydraulics companies have training programs, and we want to build interactive simulation so that they can have some custom interactive simulations, and it's something they can offer their clients, or an addendum to the type of training they're already doing. So that's sort of our focus at the moment, is to reach out nationwide and Canada. Actually, we're doing a campaign through Canada. Introduce this idea, and hopefully we'll get a good response.
All right. So where should people go if they are interested in maybe introducing this to their company for creating interactive training for them, or if they are potentially a professional that wants to upskill, or somebody interested? Tell us all the places where people should go to contact you, and what, I guess, other than somebody actually taking the course or developing with you, what sort of partnerships or conversations are you seeking from people in the community?
So where I can be reached is Logix Trainers. That in there, we're really focusing on inviting people to really do like two things: sign up for our newsletter or book a discovery call. And I say that because every company and every person has a different. It needs to be custom. We spent the first, so this is May. So we spent last month recruiting controls engineers, trying to recruit controls engineers to beef up our staff to be able to deliver good quality training. And right now we're focusing on trying to work with companies to add on training, this type of training, to some part of their business that either already offers training, or something they can add on as a new product or service to their clients. So those two things are what we're really focusing on. Now we're still interested in meeting with controls engineers that would, if this is another really great avenue for controls engineers, earn some money, earn some revenue. Those are really, I'd say, the two things. Now the conversations we're really having is about introducing. So we got to do kind of two things. We got to kind of, and I hate it, but it's what we got to do. We got to kind of introduce the idea. So we'll have a meeting, and then what I do is we walk them through some of our demos, right? We show them what we have done in the past, from small teams to people who work with very large companies. It's been a unanimous reply. This feels real.
Okay.
I mean, that really, it almost is our motto, this feels real. This feels exactly and looks exactly like the real thing.
Well, thank you very much, Paul, for being on the show. I'll let Allie chime in here if you haven't had much airtime, but I know your connection is also not the best right now, being on vacation.
There's
been some lag.
I'm really interested in seeing what these demos look like, because I had to teach shop guys how to wire, and I can't read regular, control drawings because they're not control size, and so I read through everything so that it looked exactly like the device did. And so I'm really interested in seeing what you're doing and participating and promoting this, because I think you're onto something.
I would love to. I would say you can either send me an email or at your convenience. You go to the website. I have a great Calendly, so you can just pick a date.
Yes.
This is what I do full time. So I make myself available for anybody to have these conversations. We're a very, very small team, and I'm excited about what's possible. And I would love to work with it. Look at it this way, all right? With simulation, there is no limitation. We can make virtually anything that we want to look. The key is, can we produce something that gets a real valuable result? But if you have an opportunity that you think would work, I'd love to have that conversation. And then what I can do is walk you through what we have done, and we can talk about what's on your mind, the possibilities.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. It was very nice to get to meet you, to hear everything about Logix Trainers. I am also very excited for you to meet, all the people at OT SCADACon, but
Sure.
Especially in my mind, I kept thinking about Danny Murphy. He was A3's Educator of the Year last year, one of the educators that we just really respect a lot for making the material relatable and wanting to teach the kids, kids and adults, right? They're not all kids at this point. Actual valuable skills. He's also working on training programs, and Allie is working with him. So I think this is really going to be a place where you'll find those people that are equally as passionate about this as you, and are solving similar but slightly different areas, and are the types of people that are going to want to collaborate, or at least help get the word out, because that's one of the missions of why we even started the show, was to get more people to even know that this was a place, that this was a thing, that they could do it. You don't have to be a certain type of person to do it. You just have to have that spark, and it has to ignite something in you, because you're not going to stick around otherwise. But if you do, you will come nerd out with us about all these things, online and offline, and in person in July in Houston, Texas. So if you guys haven't checked it out yet, it's otscada.com is our website, and you can get your tickets there. We have probably less than 20 tickets left. So we are likely to fill up soon. As much as we wish we could accommodate everyone,
Sure.
We are, kind of growing it. Also, we're a small team. We're trying to figure it out as we go. And so all feedback appreciated. Thank you guys. Have a great rest of your afternoon. And if you're listening, feel free to give us a rating or a recommendation, or subscribe. Those things apparently help in all of this. So thank you guys very much. We'll see you soon. Bye.